everyone, and welcome to Valentine video number 4 and another MFT countdown post. So I'm using the My Favorite Things. This is the wood grain red rubber background stamp. This was from a previous release, and I always like to peel the backing off the stamps when I use them, and so that they kind of cling a little bit to my craft mat, and then they just lay a little flatter and make it a little bit easier to ink them up. And then I used a piece of craft cardstock. And this time I actually used scrap paper, especially using a dark ink like this. This is the chocolate brown ink. It gets everywhere. So yeah, trying to be a little bit better, but like I said before, I don't mind ink on my fingers. I just don't like adhesive on my fingers. So I inked up the stamp, stamped it onto the craft cardstock, and then I always clean my stamps with just a baby wipe, especially these big background stamps. It's the easiest way to clean them, and I get my baby wipes at Costco. So I made sure to clean it off because I have a tendency to set things on top of said stamps, and then I end up getting ink everywhere. So once I was done with inking up the image, I used, this is the new Transformables Heartful of Love Dynamics, and it's a set of 2, just a solid heart and then this one that says love, and I used just the love one, and I die cut right through the cardstock to basically create a window. And then I used the Hugs and Kisses cover up die and die cut some chocolate brown cardstock. And an intricate full die like this, if you don't use a shim, it basically creates an embossed image rather than cutting right through. If you want it to cut through like it's intended, you almost for sure need to use like a metal shim or just something to give that little extra bit of pressure to cut right through. But for this, I didn't want that. I wanted the embossed look because I wanted it to be seen through the die cut wood grain part. And I was originally going to adhere that to the wood grain, but instead I adhered it to the piece of red cardstock. This is the Red Hot cardstock, again from MFT. I wanted a really bright red to kind of contrast the browns. So I also die cut the U, and that is from the Lots of Love Dynamics, and die cut that from the Red Hot cardstock, and then adhered that to the wood grain. And I purposely wanted the Y to kind of go over the open area of the love heart. So yeah, I adhere those down with my Tombow Mono Multi. And then my plan was to pop this whole part up on dimensionals, just to give it that little extra something and to kind of create the actual window that I made by die cutting the transformable heart. So with something like this, when I'm popping up like a huge piece of cardstock like this, I like to use up all my basically scrap pieces of dimensionals. When it comes to dimensionals, I never throw out any of it. I can always find a use for them. I either cut them down for little tiny pieces, or I'll use the edge pieces for something like this, because it doesn't matter what it looks like at this point because no one is going to see this. So yeah, all the little kind of scrap pieces, that's what they're perfect for. So I can use a ton of them and not feel like I'm wasting or like using way too much for a card. So I got them all laid down. I didn't bother putting any on the back of the love spot itself, although you could if you want, if you were worried about it getting pressed down later on. But yeah, so then it's popped up, and then you got this nice little window, and then I'm going to score my card base, which is the chocolate brown cardstock, and again standard A2 size card, so 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches, and scored at the top so that the fold's at the top. And then I'm just going to adhere that down, and I kind of dithered about adding a few embellishments. I was thinking about adding buttons and all that kind of stuff, and then decided not to add anything because this is a very masculine looking card, and I was actually kind of thinking of my husband when I made this card, and I thought this is something he would like. And if I started adding all kinds of little frou-frou embellishments, he just wouldn't care. He likes things like, when he sees things like the texture and that kind of stuff, that's usually what gets him. But yeah, he wouldn't care if there was like an artfully placed button or something. So yeah. So I went on to do the inside. So I have another piece of craft cardstock, and this time I use natural ink to ink up the wood grain background. And it looks a little darker now, but when it dries a fair bit lighter. And I like that for a place to write something on. Like the craft is a fair bit darker, but I like either one on craft cardstock, but the natural has become a real favorite because when it dries, it's just really soft and looks so pretty. So ink that up, stamp that onto the craft cardstock, and then I die cut another piece of the chocolate brown with the Hugs and Kisses background again. Well, not die cut, basically embossed it again. And then use a fair bit of adhesive on that just to make sure to press it down really well into the cardstock so that no pieces fall off. And one little tiny circle inside of the O did, but I just dabbed a little bit more adhesive and got that into place, and then I'm going to adhere that to the inside of my card, and that's all there is to it. So if you visit my blog post that's linked below, there'll be more info along with a list of all the supplies used. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye!